Hey guys, my name is Meg, otherwise known as MegaWhoppingCosmicBookwyrm. This is the first video that I've ever uploaded for any kind of BookTube kind of thing. I've been active on Litsy for a while, and Instagram more recently. I love to read. I've loved to read as long as I can remember, and my parents, when I've asked before, can't pinpoint a time where I didn't like to read or be read to. My earliest memories usually have to do with reading of some sort, or someone reading to me. The first book I really remember being obsessed with was In a Dark, Dark Room. It's first or second grade level reading. But my second grade, so I went to summer school, and the woman that I had for summer school was the same woman I had for second grade. But anyway, during summer school, when we had quiet reading time, I found this book and I was just obsessed with it. And every time we had quiet reading time, if someone else was reading that book, I would go track that book down and read it. And that continued on into second grade. So I guess my love for horror started as early as my love of reading. And the book that I can remember being the most obsessed with at home early on was this prehistoric, or dinosaurs, prehistoric animals. I've pretty much always been a fan of reading, a fan of dinosaurs, horror. I read kind of almost anything, both fiction and nonfiction. I love both. I do read more fiction than nonfiction. That's not necessarily a on purpose thing. That's just kind of what tends to happen kind of thing. When I was younger, I was adamant about I only wanted to read fantasy, fiction and stuff. I didn't want to have anything to do with the real world. But I'm trying to change that, trying to better myself and be more spread out about my reading. So I am trying to do better about that too. I used to be the type of person that was very judgmental about if you read all romance, then there's something wrong with you, or if you were into paranormal romance, there's something wrong with you. And now I'm more if what they're reading brings them happiness, then who am I to judge? So I am still working on that with myself. What I'm currently reading, and I was trying my hardest to get done before 2024 started, I'm reading Stephen King's It. I'm about halfway through. I think I'm 540 something pages in. I have 15 hours left of reading, and there's not even that many hours left in the day, so it's definitely not happening. But that's fine. It'll count as a chunkster for next year. I have a lot of challenges and stuff that I'm trying to do for next year. One of them being Historathon, which is hosted by Revenant Reads on YouTube. So for Historathon 2024, I know that the first quarter of the year, because they do it in quarters, so January to March is the first quarter, and it is prehistory to 500 CE, I believe. So of course, my love for dinosaurs, I wanted to do mostly prehistoric reads about dinosaur life, stuff like that. So I got a book from the library called The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, A New History of a Lost World by Steve Brusatte. I will totally butcher names all the time. So I've actually been looking forward to reading this for a couple of years. Another YouTuber I watch, a science YouTuber called Simon Dan, he attempted to have a book club at one time, and this was going to be one of the reads, and I didn't get around to it then. So it's been on my TBR for a while. So we're getting to that. So that will be one of the books I read. And then the next one, I thought that this was going to also be more of a strictly dinosaur themed kind of book. I've since found out that it's really just a lot of different essays on different kinds of natural history. So it's Bully for Brontosaurus, Reflections in Natural History by Stephen Jay Gould. So like I said, with the name, the title, and the cover and everything, I thought oh, surely it's all about dinosaurs, and it's not. There's There's a chapter in here, adaptation, and one of the sections of that is called male nipples and clitoral ripples. So it'll focus on a lot of different things other than dinosaurs. So, but I am still going to keep it in my first quarter for Historathon 2024. I didn't get as much reading done this year as I was hoping. I think I originally had my Goodreads goal set at like 50. I might have even been really optimistic on the first and did 100, but I only got 25, 26. I think it's 25. I'll have to double check again. I don't remember. But nowhere even close to what I was hoping I would get. So for 2024, I'm really trying to focus a lot more on giving myself time. So there's all sorts of reasons that, you know, it's hard to fit in free time when you're a new parent. Hopefully the more self-sufficient the little wormling gets, the more free time I'll have to do things that I want to do again. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's just an adjustment that you have to go through. So the goal, once again, I'm going to be very optimistic this year. So my goal is 100 for 2024. And hopefully with my resolutions and with, I'm like a big bingo board person. They do them on Litsy and stuff like that. And then I've noticed that some booktubers do them. So we'll get to that. But I used to do, it was like a monthly bingo on Litsy. And I found that when I didn't get like a bingo or anything like that, I would feel like less motivated. So I have split the year into quarters, and I will be doing like a quarterly self-made bingo. I will still be incorporating a lot of the readathons and challenges and stuff like that from Litsy onto my bingo board. It just won't be one every month. I'll have the quarter to get those books read and done. And I think that since I'll have a higher probability of getting a bingo, then that will help me be motivated to actually get the reading done. That's the hope, at least. We'll see. I'll report back in March and we'll see how well the first quarter went. But I'm optimistic, but I always am. I'm like naively optimistic about everything all the time. I had a pretty good reading year. I didn't have as many 5 stars as I've had in the past. I don't know if that's just that I wasn't reading as good of books, or if the more I read, the more picky I become, or I don't know. Or if it was just a bad year for reading. Not a bad year, but like a mediocre year. Like most of my reading was like 3 to 4 stars this year. My favorite reads, I'm not gonna count it because I haven't finished it yet, but I really like it. I love Stephen King. I love both of the movies. So I have a strong feeling that it would have been the favorite of the year, but I'm not finished, and so I can't very well put it on the list. There's a giant chunk of time there's a giant chunk of pages where I could kind of fall out of love with the book, because it's rare, but every now and then the movie's better, which is super rare. But The Postman would be a really good example of a movie that's way better than the book. But anyway, I didn't read that one this year, so I'm not going to talk about that one. So, but my best books of the year, I couldn't pick just one. I had, 2 of my 5 stars and then a 4-star, which the more I think about it, maybe should have been a 5-star, but I don't like to go back and change after I've read and reviewed, because I feel like I knew myself better I knew the book and myself better when it was fresh. And sometimes you can look at the past through rose-colored glasses and think that something was better than it was. So I try to just leave the ratings alone. But looking back now, I might have rated this slightly higher. But anyway, my 2 top 5-star ones was a reread of The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I never read it as a kid, so I've only ever read it as an adult. But this time around, being a mom and everything, I think it definitely hit different. I think all rereads do hit different, but I just really, really love that book. I think the last time I read it in the spring, so it made more sense because it's all about, you know, the garden coming to life and these children coming like back to life. But this time I read it in like November, December, like the beginning of winter. And it still gives that feeling of like new beginnings and fresh starts, and that the world will always come around to being better than before, I guess, which a cynical person would say that it's not, but I don't know. I try to be, again, naively optimistic. So as a mom reading the book over, I felt a lot more of a connection to like the parents in the book, or I guess I saw it from more of a parental perspective. Even though I was an adult when I read it the first time, I connected more to the children characters. But this round, I couldn't imagine being Mary's mother and just like being so self-absorbed that people didn't even know that I actually had a child. That was heart-wrenching. And then the pain of being the sole surviving parent, like how Colin's father was. I don't think he handled things well either. That was very heart-wrenching as well. I would hope that if, God forbid, anything did happen, and I was left as the only parent, I would handle it a lot better. But then Dickon's mom is like parent goals. Not to have that many kids. I'm one and done. I'm done. But her being so open and caring about other children that aren't hers, and being so trusting in her own child because she knows she raised him well, and that he's fully capable of going out and making his own mistakes and his own adventures, that was really cool. And I can only hope to be even 50% as cool and comfortable with my boy running around like that as she is. Always a good read, probably one that I will reread again and again. I'm excited to sooner or later read it to my boy when he's a little older, to actually like understand and want to listen to longer stories. Right now we do good with board books, so he does love his books, but he would rather just kind of like look through the pictures, and anything where a page has too many words on it, he wants me to just flip to the next page. I can read like maybe a couple of sentences and then he's like, okay, next page. So we have to read fast-paced books for him right now. But he does love his books. We have a lot for him. It's kind of crazy. I think he has more books than some adults that I know. So I know he has more books than some adults that I know. Anyway, the other 5-star read that I had this year was Pen Pal by, and I am going to absolutely butcher this, Dathan Auerbach. I know that there are some mixed reviews for this book. I know that there are some people that like absolutely sing the praises of it, which again, I did give it 5 stars and I do love it, but I'm not one of those people that gets upset at the criticism, because there is valid criticism. But then I also don't quite understand the people that like hate the book. Again, reading is subjective, so everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and thank goodness for that. I'm so glad we live in a world where people can have different opinions on books and culture and stuff like that. But I honestly really enjoyed it. I thought it was quite unique. I had no idea about it beforehand, like as far as like how it was a creepypasta at first on the internet, and then he put it together into a novel. I didn't know. I was gifted this book through one of the swaps that I did on Litsy, and I really wish I could remember who gave it to me. I am terrible about notating stuff like that. I really, from now on, any books that I get, I need to write down who gave them to me inside the book or something, because I'm awful. I would have never come across it or picked it up to read on my own. But I am so glad that I did. I really, really liked it. It was one of those I could not put it down type books, and it's not very long. It's not like a very big book. And I read through it in like maybe the course of like 2 days, I think. So it was just one of those like page turners that like if I wasn't reading it, I was thinking about it. So like I said, I really enjoyed it, but I do see where a lot of the criticism comes. It is kind of, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief about certain things, but the use of like childhood trauma and childhood naivety and childhood fears was what really drew me in and what really had me like on the edge of my seat the whole way through. So those are my 2 5-star reads. The 4-star read that I keep thinking I maybe should have made into a 5-star. Now, before I talk about it, full disclosure, I do technically know this person because we were friends through Litzy, but I don't like know them like personally as far as like in real life or anything. And I still think that I would have loved this book regardless. But anyway, so it's True North by Randall DeValence, and it was a ride. I loved his previous one, Doomsday Prophet, and so I was really, really like, I pre-ordered True North. That's how much I loved the other book, and I could not wait to read True North. If you like the Coen brother movies, you will love True North. Like, it's so well written, but it's also so weird and wacky, but so good. Like, I really should make it a 5-star. I really don't know why I didn't make it a 5-star. I don't know if I felt like it was too short or if I wanted more from it. Because I remember like the ending doesn't really tie everything up in a nice little bow, but that's kind of what I liked about the ending. I even wrote that in my review, that was kind of like, that felt right. So it's not the ending, I don't think, that knocked a star off. I really don't know why I didn't. I probably was just having a weird month. But I don't know. Like I said, I usually don't go back and change ratings, but this one I might, because I just really, really loved it. Yeah, so those were my 3 best reads. I only had one read, because like I said, this was a pretty mediocre year. My least favorite book of 2023 was Irish Ghost Stories by Patrick F. Byrne, which, if you haven't heard of it, don't worry. Only like 8 people in all of Goodreads have ever shelved it. Like, it's like an older like anthology of like some Irish folklore and ghost stories, but they're like not like, you think of ghost stories, you think of like, oh, someone made this ghost story up, and it's something you tell around like a campfire, or late at night when you're at a sleepover or something like that. That's not what these were. These were like, well, okay, they were accounts of ghosts, and I am a skeptic. I don't believe in that kind of thing. I like to read about it, sure, it's fun and stuff like that, and play and pretend and all that, but when it comes down to like actually believing in those things, I'm not all about that. So that's what this little tiny book was. It was like, oh, Mary so-and-so from the village down yonder said that she saw a white figure of a ghost woman walking along the castle hallways or whatever. It's just like, they'd be like 2-paragraph stories, and it'd be like, that's it, we're just reporting that so-and-so said that they saw something strange in this place. And I was like, okay, like, and so it was never, the ghosts almost never really did anything. They were never like threatening. It was just like, oh, so-and-so saw this, and oh, and here's the history behind it, like so-and-so was beheaded at this place in 1840 whatever, and then it was just, I don't know, it was just not for me. So it was super short, super easy to get through, so I finished it, but I would never read it again, and I would never suggest anyone else read it. So that is pretty much 2023. Like I said, I am hoping 2024 is a much better reading year, especially quantity-wise, quality-wise hopefully too, but also I hope that I can get to my 100 books reading goal. I do the Roll 100 on Litsy and the book spin. I'm not doing the book spin bingo anymore. So I am currently waiting. The person that does the book spin, she draws the numbers on the 2nd of each month. So I won't have 2 of my books for January until then. But I have my Roll 100. So my Roll 100 books were, there are a lot of, I've been putting off finishing a lot of series that I've been reading or that I've been wanting to read or that I'm partway through, whatever. So with my Roll 100, I did like kind of 50-50. So 50% are standalone books that I've never read before, and then 49 of the other books of the spaces are taken up by just the word series. And so whenever a number gets rolled that is just the word series, then I choose one of the book series that I'm currently reading. I choose the next in line so I can finish that series. And then once I finish a series, then if it rolls a series, I will pick a new series to read. Puddle Jumper rolls 3 pairs of dice every month for the Roll 100, so there's 3 books. I don't have to necessarily read all of them, but I did put all 3 of them on my quarterly bingo board. So the first series that I am still trying to read is the Sword of Truth series by Terry Goodkind. I am on book 3, Blood of the Fold. I know that Terry is a very controversial, author, understandably so. And so my all-time favorite book series is Wheel of Time. And there has been a lot of speculation and finger pointing about how Mr. Goodkind has stolen a lot of ideas and plot devices and everything like that from Robert Jordan. I can, so far in the 2 books that I've read, I can sort of see where some people would say that, but also I don't yet get the feeling that it's like 100% plagiarism. It does sometimes kind of feel like a fan fiction of Wheel of Time. So I really actually like this series, but I like it the way that I might like a B horror movie or something like that, or like in the olden times when you could watch like a shitty Jean-Claude Van Damme movie but still get enjoyment out of it. Like it's like that kind of guilty pleasure kind of thing for me. So I would never probably put it up there as high fantasy like Lord of the Rings or Wheel of Time, but I've still enjoyed both of the other books so much that I have given them 5 stars. So I am a fan. But like I said, I can see a little bit of where the criticism comes from, but I'm not going to stop reading them yet. The other series that is kind of a reread, but not really, because I never got all the way through them when I was a kid, is the Animorphs books from the 90s. I am currently on Animorphs 11, The Forgotten. I love this series so much, and I could never afford to get all of the books when I was younger. And one day, one of my high school friends, he was liquidating a lot of his old books, and he happened to have the entire Animorphs collection, and he asked me if I wanted them, and I was like, sure, how much? And he was like, no, like just for free, just take them. I just wanted them to have a good home. And I could not believe my luck. So I have the entire collection, which I am thrilled about, and I can't wait till I can also pass these books down to my son. Hopefully he enjoys them. Some of the things are very dated. Like when they were talking about the internet and chat rooms, that was hilarious. That was absolutely hilarious. How you could only like put so much into a chat before you had to send it in instant messenger, and then you had to just, if you had more to say, you had to type it into your next message. I was like, oh my god, I remember this. Like this is such like AOL like messenger stuff. Like it's hilarious. I was like, he's never gonna understand what the hell they're talking about in some of these things. But some of the jokes are great. But I might have to, like, you know, take him aside and explain quite a few things to him in the future. The third book for Roll 100 what is something that, again, I would have never like picked this up typically, but the cover is so freaking cool. It's called Wilder Girls. It is by Rory Power. It's actually a young adult book, or at least it says on mine. I have a Barnes & Noble Young Adult Book Club exclusive edition sticker on the front. And I try not to judge books by the cover, but look, this thing is so cool. Look at it. I mean, how could you resist? And again, I have seen some reviews of people that didn't really like this book, but I'm gonna give it a chance because how could I not? So I'm not even really sure what it's about. I just know that the cover looked amazing, so we'll see. So that's my Roll 100. So I'm also going to be participating in the Bingo Board from Hell 2024 by Literary Diversions. I changed mine a little bit. I took quite a few squares off of how she did hers, but then I kind of tweaked a few things a little bit for myself. So one of my spaces is 10 books that are 500 plus pages. I would still like to read more chunksters. And I know typically a chunkster is probably more like 600, 800, even 1,000 pages. But I would like to push myself to just read a lot more 500 plus page books. I only get to mark off that square if I read 10 500 page books, 500 or more page books. And then if I get it, then I can do a whole nother round of that, but I can't mark the square off until I get to the 10. The next square is 10 TBR veterans. For me, a TBR veteran is anything that's been on my TBR for a year or more. I do have some books that have been on there ever since I joined Goodreads in like 2016, 2017. So those will probably be the first ones that I go for. But anything for me, a year or older, I would count that as a veteran. The next square is 10 new to me authors. I'm going to try to step out of my comfort zone with new authors that I've never read before. The next square, I did really bad last year with keeping up with my book spin and my double spin books on Litsy. So my next square is 10 book spin or double spin books. I want to be able to like really focus on reading the books that I actually own. And so all of my book spin and double spin books are books that I actually physically own. Not that I have to buy, not that I have to rent from the library, anything like that. Things that are in my house. So I'm trying to work through my library so that, one, I can say that I actually read the books that are on my shelves. And then two, if I don't want to read them or if I don't like them, I can get rid of them and donate them, take them to a little free library or whatever. Pass them on to someone else that would actually enjoy them, because they're not doing anyone any good just sitting on my shelves. The next square is 10 nonfiction, which I think I mentioned before in the video, how I am really trying to push myself to read a lot more nonfiction and broaden my horizons on that. The next is 10 award winners. I need to do better about reading books that get the hype, the credentials, basically, I guess. The next one is 10 Roll 100 books. I did okay with keeping up with my Roll 100 last year, but there were plenty of months where I didn't read any of them. There's 3 books to choose from, and I didn't read any of them. That's kind of why I'm really focusing on like a quarterly bingo and putting my book spins, my Roll 100s, and everything on that board so that I'm only allowed to read those. I have like 2 free spaces on my bingo board that can be there for like mood reading, and then everything else is like the Historathon books, the Roll 100s, the book spins. I'm part of Natural Litsy on Litsy, those books. So trying to like, focus in on that. I'm going to skip the next one because that's the last one I want to talk about. And then, so the other one is 10 series reads. So 10 books that are part of a series that I'm currently reading or that I start or whatever. I love book series. I love being able to be part of a world for like a prolonged period of time and not just a one book, like one, one night stand. So I'm hoping that that gives me the boost that I need to like really stick to the series. I'm also participating in Series Love 2024 on Litsy, hosted by Andrew65 and the Spine View. The goal is to, I have like several different series that I'm reading. 3 of them are like graphic novels / mangas, so that shouldn't be too hard, but I picked several different ones that I had either read the first book or read a couple books in and then just like got distracted. And I just used to be that I was the type of person that I would start a series and then I would not read anything else until that series was over. And in more recent years, especially since like joining like Litsy and like being more on the internet and stuff, you kind of get like the FOMO. And again, I'm not the type of person that like buys like the newest books. I actually go to half price books, garage sales, Goodwill, stuff like that, like a lot, and just get like whatever catches my eye. The old books, the older books. I almost never pre-order anything. But still, even then, it's easy to get distracted, or easier to get distracted nowadays than when I was younger. So I'm trying to refocus back into book series that I know that I liked, and I want to get back into those worlds. So the final space on my bingo board from hell was inspired by Leanne's have someone in real life control your TBR, and for her it was like a friend or whatever. And I don't have a lot of in real life friends that read as much as I do, or if they do, we've already read a lot of the same things, or going back to, and again, I know I'm kind of contradicting myself on this, they read a lot of things that I don't want to read. So I was kind of stuck for a little bit on like who I was going to ask, and I thought maybe I could just ask my husband, who is not a big reader, to just pick like random books off my shelves. And then I got the idea to ask my dad. So my final square on my bingo board from hell is Dad controls my TBR. So I asked my dad for 10 or more books that he thought I should read within this year. Then he sent me a list, and it's 11 books. And so from there, I kind of chose 1 to 2 books per quarter. So probably not going to read all 11. But I really am going to try to push myself to read all of them. But the book that I chose first to read is Endurance by Alfred Lansing. It's about Shackleton. And I actually, when I was in grade school, had to do a report on Shackleton. So I thought that was actually awfully funny, that would be the one of the books on my dad's list, and then also that would be like, because I didn't know that that was the Endurance that he was talking about, because there's a ton of different books called Endurance. One of the most recent ones is the Scott Kelly one, The Astronaut, and that one's on my TBR. Almost all of the books that were on my dad's list were either already on my TBR or on my radar of books that I did want to read sooner or later. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But he texted me saying that he didn't tell me. He just said that it was called Endurance. He didn't tell me by Alfred Lansing, so I had no idea which Endurance he was talking about, but he said that's one of the ones that he actually physically had a copy of. And I was like, okay, cool, like, can I borrow that one? And so when I got it and I found out what it was, I had to laugh because it just so happened to be the one about Shackleton. So I don't remember a whole lot about my report on Shackleton, but I remember, like, it was probably one of the first, like, school reports that I, like, really remember, like, falling in love with, like, being so excited about, like, this adventurer, so yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. So that is my bingo board from hell for 2024. Hopefully this hasn't been too rambly. I don't know when this is going to come out. I am recording this on actual New Year's Eve, so we'll see. So I am looking forward to this next year, and all the reading that I hope to get done. Hopefully, between Instagram, Litsy, and BookTube, I can better hold myself accountable. You guys can better hold me accountable. So yeah, this is my first video of this kind, so I don't really know how to end this or sign off. Alright guys, Happy New Year. Bye.